and I've always been very pro Grigor Dimitrov. So I've been...
It'd be a great arc, wouldn't it? It'd be a great arc if he won.
It is pretty remarkable. I mean, I'm sure we've talked about this before, but, the guy's 32. He's had the weight of the world on his shoulders ever since we started calling him Mini Fed. He's never really performed to the expectations. And here he still is, playing some seriously good tennis, beating some seriously good players. I don't know, it's pretty impressive, isn't it?
I mean, I watched him. I don't know if I'd seen him play live before, but I watched him at the Australian Open because obviously Nuno Borges, a friend of Henry and Francisco, his partner. So we all went in to watch him when he played Dimitrov. And the impression you always kind of get Dimitrov is that he's got some great shots, but he's a little bit flaky. He can be a little bit powder puff at times, even though he can hit big shots. And then when I was watching it, because obviously we wanted Borges to win, and as we were watching in the first set, I said to Henry that, you kind of forget, especially because you don't see a lot. I've kind of stopped watching so much singles live because I'm normal when I'm at the tournaments. I'm just watching doubles. And you kind of think, he's like I say, he's a bit flaky, he's a bit powder puff, and you forget till you see him live that he's a phenomenal tennis player in every aspect. In terms of, he's probably the most complete player out there now, I would say. If you factor in things like aesthetic, movement around the court, strengths, lack of weaknesses, that kind of thing. And I thought at the time, geez, he's a phenomenal tennis player, and how's he never won a slam? And then in the next 2 hours, I was given the reason for that, because I was thinking that, and then 2 hours later, where he was completely all over Borges, even though the scoreline, the first set, I think he won the first set in a tiebreak, but it seemed a lot easier than that. And he somehow managed to lose that match. And that's always been the problem with Dimitrov.
When you said he's the most complete player because of the aesthetic, is that you just saying he's really good looking? Because that is true.
I mean, he is hot. There's no two ways about it.
But I meant also, like, the way that he plays as well is like, like you think he can probably do everything better than everybody else, if that makes sense. Not, if you factor in his overall score, would I think be probably up there better? You could argue Djokovic, I suppose, but I think he volleys a whole lot better than Djokovic. His slice backhand's a whole lot better than Djokovic.
And yeah, like and I should say, and this is just from my experience of him, I interviewed him at Wimbledon last year. He is really hot. That's definitely true.
Well, we know he enjoys a female companion, don't we?
Oh, God, yeah. For people who... I've realised that reference is now like... When I initially told that story, it's now like 2 years ago. And in case people think we're just being weird, this was a Fru Macmillan special on commentary when one of the reasons he gave for Grigor Dimitrov never quite making it to the very top of the game was, how can I put this... He enjoys a female companion, which was just so inappropriate for really any level of tennis commentary.
Who among us doesn't? I mean, that's what struck me at the time.
Well, I mean, some people don't, Calvin, but, nevertheless. Sorry, I was distracted from telling you that Grigor Dimitrov is also a very good talker and a very thoughtful and intelligent guy, and I really enjoyed spending time in his company because he's, and I always value this in tennis players. They don't have to do these interviews, they choose to do them to an extent. And some of them turn up when they do and are like, well, I'm only being here because I sort of felt I should. And he was like, no, he turned up and did that thing where he takes time to answer questions and thinks about them and thinks broadly about the game. And I guess that comes with age and experience as well. But
I think
he's a good person to have around, I think.
I mean, even though he's 32, it wouldn't surprise me if we've got another good few years of him left yet, because he doesn't really get injured all that much. He's very, very flexible in how he plays. I don't think that, I don't think his body would necessarily give up on him. He doesn't seem to have lost any speed or power or anything. I'd say he's probably still moving as well as I can ever remember him doing so. And I think, one of the biggest compliments you can pay him as well is that when you look at, like you say, James, how much hype he got in the earlier days, and he does have a lot of endorsements. I know the lads, the players all kind of semi-take the piss out of him because he's got the Hugo Boss deal. And, I think he might have, probably outside of the very top guys, he's surely got the most endorsements around. And all that hype he's had and all that pressure, and he always seems to just really love playing tennis. and it never seems to negatively affect. He never had these spells where you think he just looks like he's had enough. He really looks like he just loves the game. And he wants to be around it for as long as possible.
Yeah, and that was the feeling I got kind of speaking to him as well. I wasn't trying to retire him, but with guys who've been around a long time, you're always like, oh, what's the prognosis? What do you feel about? And he's like, I still love it. I'm still quite good at it. Like, I've still got things I can achieve, and I do still think that he's got a slam final in him. I don't know if he'll win it.
I think he might still have a slam with him on one of those where everyone kind of gets knocked out. You'd think if you could see a situation where it gets down to the last, 3 of the 4 semis have decided and everyone's been knocked out and he's in the last quarter, and then you suddenly start thinking, who's beating Dimitrov here? No, I can see that.
He's going to beat himself. He ain't winning.
Well, he can, but he can also. I mean, he can do that, but it wouldn't. The problem is, you get the feeling he's going to have to win one of the next 5 or 6, though. Because as much as I still think he'll be hanging round, I don't think he's winning slams at 34, 35.